Hi there, it's me again. At the beginning of this module, we outlined that one of our learning goals is to increase your intercultural management competencies. This is because being able to understand and read people from different cultures is important if we wish to communicate effectively and achieve desired outcomes in a business context. Let me share with you one example from my own background. When I was a student, I was doing an internship in Tokyo with one of the biggest car manufacturers in Japan. In my contract, it was stated that I was supposed to start working at 9 o'clock in the morning and finish at 6 o'clock in the evening. So for the first few days, I would arrive at 9 o'clock in the morning and would be the last person to enter the office. I would also leave at 6 and be the first person to actually leave. When leaving, I realized that all my Japanese colleagues were still in front of their computers. I recall calling my parents and telling them how impressed I was with the Japanese working attitude. One day, I went out with one of my Japanese colleagues for lunch. I told her how impressed I was with how hard Japanese colleagues were generally working. She asked me, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, whenever I leave the office in the evening, you folks are still here in front of your computers working hard." She told me, "Well, when you leave this evening, take a look at people's computers." So when I left at 6 o'clock that evening, I had a look at all the colleagues' computers and I realized that most of them were sitting in front of their computers, surfing the internet, chatting, or even playing Sudoku. So the next morning, I asked my colleague, "Why do you folks not go home after 6 o'clock?" She told me, "Well, let me tell you something about the Japanese culture. It is part of our tradition that the boss is the first one to actually leave the office. So employees will stay in front of their computers until the boss has gone home." This example made me understand that at the start of my internship, I did not know very much about the Japanese culture and had very few competencies in interpreting intercultural situations correctly. So, what are the key intercultural competencies required in an international setting? Cultural sensitivity relates to being aware of practices that exist in other cultures and being willing to investigate the reasons why people of another culture act the way they do. For example, in some cultures, individuals keep a certain distance when greeting each other. If you are doing business in such an environment, people would be offended if you greeted your business partner with a handshake, a hug, or even a kiss. Someone with a high level of cultural sensitivity is aware that his or her standard way of behavior might not be appreciated in other cultural contexts and above that might even cause harm. Cultural intelligence goes a step further. It describes a person's ability to adapt to a new cultural context in a very effective way. Hence, individuals with a high level of cultural intelligence interact constructively with individuals from other cultures and are therefore more successful in achieving their desired personal or business goals in an intercultural setting. The concept of cultural intelligence can be broken down further into 3 different subdimensions. Cultural knowledge refers to an individual's ability to understand what culture means and how culture can affect our behavior. Someone with a high level of cultural knowledge is able to understand that culture shapes our attitudes, our behavior, our values, and our preferences, and he or she knows that there exist differences in these aspects with regards to individuals from different cultures. Possessing intercultural knowledge also means that you are able to position yourself on a cultural map, for example, with regards to the different dimensions suggested by Hofstede. Ask yourself, does your culture have a high or low power distance? Is your culture individualistic or collectivistic? And to what extent does your culture value or avoid uncertainty? Cultural skills or cultural behavior describes an individual's ability to learn from interaction with others, to appreciate the different behaviors between members of different cultures, and to modify one's behavior to fit a specific cultural situation. For example, during my internship in Japan, I learned early on that bowing is a respectful way of greeting other people. I also learned that direct confrontation should be avoided in meetings and other social interactions. A final component that feeds into the concept of cultural intelligence is cultural metacognition, which can be considered a higher level competence and describes an individual's ability to reflect upon one's own intercultural learning process. Someone with a high cultural metacognition tends to reflect upon the role that culture plays in explaining their own behavior and consciously thinks about using different strategies when interacting with individuals from different cultural backgrounds. Now that we've introduced you to the key facts related to globalization and to the basic concepts around culture and cultural competencies, we encourage you to assess your own level of cultural intelligence at the start of this MOOC. In the further readings and resources section, you'll find a short questionnaire which enables you to determine the strengths of your cultural intelligence. Please take a look at these questions and share your results in the course discussion forum. This is the end of our first week of the MOOC on intercultural management. Many thanks for listening to us this week, and we're looking forward to welcoming you over the next few weeks when we will discuss aspects of teams, negotiation and human resource management from an intercultural perspective. Goodbye and see you soon.
Auf Wiedersehen und bis bald.
再见，再会啦。
Arrivederci, ci vediamo presto.
Bye, see you later.
Salut et à bientôt.
Sayonara, またね。
Alvida, फिर मिलेंगे.
Au revoir et à bientôt.